Well, let's begin what's trending in Nigeria. Following President Muhammadu Buhari's departure on Sunday for the 76th UN General Assembly in New York, Yoruba Nation agitators and other self-determination groups threatened that they would hold their biggest march yet on September 24th, the day the president will address the United Nations General Assembly. The agitators listed 6 demands ahead of their protests. They include the abolition of the 1999 Constitution, the suspension of further elections, particularly the 2023 elections, conduct of a referendum, an end to Fulani genocide, as well as an end to oligarchy, and the declaration of Miyetti Allah as a terrorist organization. Well, in a statement, the chairman of the Yoruba group, Professor Banji Akintoye, was quoted as saying, "Rather than listen to the yearnings and aspirations of our people, the Buhari-led government has consistently waged war against people who attempt to checkmate the menace of Miyetti Allah in the name of grazing cows." He said the groups would face Buhari on the 24th to tell him to his face that the Miyetti Allah are the #1 enemy of the people of the South and Middle Belt of Nigeria, and they are the authentic terrorists. Dr. Abati, I guess the United Nations is the biggest platform for these agitators to express their wish.
Well, first, what the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance on Self-Determination is trying to do, basically, by going to be a part of the general debate, that's the United Nations General Assembly, it's otherwise also called the general debate, is to draw attention to the situation in Nigeria in terms of their grievances. And if you look at those things that you've listed, they want Miyetti Allah classified as a terrorist organization. They want an end to oligarchy. They want, the Nigerian constitution to be abolished. They want the right to self-determination. Now, all of these groups, from the South, from the Middle Belt, and other parts of Nigeria, majorly minority ethnic nationalities and also other groups, they're insisting on their right to self-determination. And, their choice of the United Nations, led by Professor Banji Akintoye, is understandable. The UN Charter, in Article 1 and also Article 55 thereof, talks about the right to self-determination as one of those important, post-war, rights of communities, of peoples. And it simply means that a people have the right to determine their own future. Now, before this 1 million march, they call it, the NINAS, that's the acronym, as decided upon, they had also appealed, first, the Yoruba group, the Yoruba Nation agitators, joined the UNPO, that's the body for underrepresented peoples of the world. Two, the entire group, NINAS, appealed to global financial institutions not to lend money to Nigeria again, because they say that Nigeria is a disputed project. But I think what is important in this regard is that, look, along the spectrum of positions, of choices, options, before the various ethnic nationalities involved in that group that is led by Professor Akintoye, what is important is that the Nigerian government should provide an opportunity to talk to them.
Exactly what?
The UN protests, we give them visibility. They are not the only ones who go there. Anybody can go and be part of the general debate and push their case. But at the end of the day, Nigeria will be responsible for its own people's interests. And that's why we keep saying the opportunity should be provided in Nigeria for dialogue, for conversation among the various ethnic nationalities. But, government just takes a decision and says, if you're asking for self-determination, it's a problem. No, self-determination is a right, but you can have a conversation around it. The only caveat here, however, is that even when you are asking for self-determination, there are standards, there are values, there are processes that have to be respected. Your right to self-determination does not extend to the extent that you sabotage the sovereign. If you try to sabotage the sovereign, the natural instinct is that the sovereign will fight back.
Absolutely.
And which was an original point that I made, and people thought, I was opposing self-determination. No, self-determination is a right, but how you go about it is also important.
Tunde, I thought it was quite instructive that they singled out the Miyetti Allah for, to describe them as a terrorist group, and they're not alone in their thoughts.
Well, I was wondering which Mietiala, because we've had guests on this show who will go to great lengths to tell us that there are two different ones. I want them to specify.
Yes.
And if you go by what Garba Shehu has said, according to the presidency, that President Buhari has been harder on those people than on others, that what he has done to them with the shoot-at-sight order is worse than terrorism. And that's a big if there, because personally, I'm not convinced. What I do want to say is that in addition to what you said about self-determination and that how the sovereign will reject it. Even in Canada, that bastion of civility and niceness, when the Quebec freedom movement got out of hand, Canada stepped in. The father of the current premier in Canada, Trudeau, he instituted war measures against them. But what I do want to say is that everybody's voice must be heard. Self-determination is a right, and I will always concur with any call to abolish the 1999 Constitution. I never miss an opportunity, darling. I really don't.
I know you
Earlier
don't.
this morning, we're talking about Governor Akeredolu, and I had to juxtapose that. I had to just tack it on in there, that frankly, any idea, he's right about what he was saying about the FIRS and their attempt to, smuggle the VAT issue into the Constitution being dead on arrival, fine. But generally, constitutional amendments cannot be dead on arrival. We must continue to evolve this Constitution. I would prefer if we bin it, quite frankly. But if that's not going to happen, we must continue to evolve it, and we must change to really fully reflect federal fiscal federalism.
Fiscal federalism, yeah.
I got there in the end. Look at the fact that all mineral deposits in Nigeria are vested in the federal government. I mean, absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
We shouldn't even be having this VAT conversation. We shouldn't be having any of these conversations. So the fact of the matter is that people feel marginalized. In Yoruba land, we can all attest to this. There have been secessionists, they've always been secessionists, but they were sort of on the fringes. Now it's becoming more mainstream. Why? In response to the perception, and perception is reality, that some animals are more equal than others, if we're talking George Orwell. And it's completely unacceptable. Nigeria belongs to all of us.
You cannot be more correct.
Except that many Nigerians will not agree with some people that Yorubas are marginalized.
Okay.
But that's another conversation.
So for me, real quickly, Tundu talked about all federal minerals being vested in the hands of the federal government.
Why?
Question is, what is happening to gold? Is
Exactly.
gold in the hands of the federal government?
It's on
mineral
private
resources.
jets. Some private jets been
But
smuggled out.
secondly, for me, I think the most important question we should ask is, if the APC had fulfilled this electoral promise of restructuring, are we going to be where we are today?
No. In a
Well,
nutshell.
all right. Well said, Rufai. Well said, the whole gang. We'll
Do you agree that Quebec should become sovereign? Those were the first 8 words of the English language question for voters in that province in 1995. Millions of Quebecers cast their ballots in a referendum, and by the slimmest of margins, they rejected the idea of separate. Hands of one province tonight, 5 million Quebecers are choosing between yes and no, between Quebec and Canada.
October 30th, 1995 was a night of maximum tension. When the first results came in, the sovereignist side had a wide lead. It looked as if Parti Québécois leader Jacques Parizeau was about to realize his lifelong dream of separating Quebec from Canada. For Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, it looked as if the country was about to go over a cliff, and he had no real plan of what would happen next.
Que c'est l'option du non qui remportera ce référendum.
In the end, the Federalist side squeaked by in an extremely tight victory. One of the most fascinating and enduring questions of Canadian history is, what would have happened if the tight vote had gone the other way?